Welcome to Birds of a Feather, conversations about the relationships that determine our paths to success, who wins and who doesn't. My name's Jeremy. I'm the co-founder of Feather, and we are in for an awesome chat today because I'm joined by Jon Hunter. Jon's a seasoned enterprise sales executive with over 30 years of experience leading and transforming sales and leadership teams. And we're talking about tens of thousands of sales professionals in companies that are in Fortune 100, managing multi-billion-dollar revenue portfolios in some of the most complex enterprise markets on the planet, and has actually had a downstream effect on some of the companies that I came up through in enterprise software sales. So inadvertently, I'm here because of you, Jon. So thank you for all this stuff.
You're welcome.
And today, Jon founded Hunter X, where he's helping the emerging leaders and scaling companies and focusing on helping them with coaching, with training, development programs for their teams, especially in today's uncertain and complex world. So I wanted to take a second and just say, Jon, I know you got a lot on your plate, so I really appreciate you taking the time to come talk with us today. I know the people listening are in for a really great show.
Well, thank you very much, man. I'm glad to be here, and I'm really excited for the work you're doing.
Awesome. Okay, so I want to start where you maybe can take us back to a moment where you walked into a room and that buyer was ready to crush your hopes and dreams. And it's not because of you personally, but because of the years of overselling or broken promises or things that they just experienced, whether it was your team, your company, or just their whole career. What was that room like?
Yeah, I thought about that. There's so many of them, and I know sometimes these stories can take some time to unpack. And I think about the listeners. You know, one of my superpowers, I believe, over time has been able to communicate in a way that the average person can say, oh, that guy is speaking to me. So I really hope today we'll be able to do that. Well, it'll be salient, it'll be applicable and real. And so there's tons of examples, tons at scale. However, I think the right one is one of the first stories in my career. For those who don't know, so I was at CA Technologies, originally called Computer Associates. It was a mainframe consolidator in the beginning. I joined there in 1994, 93. And one of my first roles in being a true account and representative after a number of years was with Honeywell. So if you know of anything about Honeywell, they're a big multi-billion mission critical, and we were selling client server distributed, but also mainframe stuff. And we were selling automation and enterprise management, systems management stuff. So I'm just following the playbook, Jeremy. I'm doing what I'm told to do. And I had some pretty decent leadership at the time. So we were discovering pain, and we had a process where we would document the problems and put them on the board and then bring them to our office. And so if you go back in the day, my job was to bring in the Wintel, the Windows system administrators, the Unix administrators, and the mainframe guys and gals. And I had a young guy in my tie, and I worked my butt off to get these people all to this room, because I was there to help them keep systems available and keep mission critical systems. Well, one thing coming up to that meeting, Jeremy, that somehow I figured out I was missing, I needed a salty, seasoned someone next to this young buck, up and coming sales guy with this tie on and I found some value that I was good. I got him there. And I had understood some element of their problem and their pain. So I did something right. But I knew something was missing. Their arms were always folded. They were skeptical. Remember, this is probably 1997, maybe 98. And they were already skeptical. What the heck? I didn't do anything wrong to them, Jeremy. I didn't screw them. This is the beginning. This is before the .coms. This is before a bunch of new fads. And they were already trust broken feeling people. Despite that, I got them there. But I knew I was missing something. So I put the word out. I'm told, oh, you got to get this guy, Walter Schaefer. I hope he listens. Every CA person in the world knows who he is. I didn't know who he was. Someone said, hey, you need Walter. So I don't interview him. Thank God I didn't interview him because I probably wouldn't have accepted him. But I just say, hey, I put in the request, big deal coming down the pipeline. I got all these people. I get them to the room, Jeremy, and I get my glossies. I have my stuff on the board. And then finally, and I'm looking around the room, no one's jiving with me, Jeremy. Nobody's jiving. Mainframers, most especially. The Unix guys, men and women, most especially. The Wintel guys, really, yeah, whatever. They go to anything. And so finally I say, well, now put my glossies down. I do my presentation. Now I'm turning you over to Walter Schaefer, and he's going to kind of talk about how we deploy all that, how this really works. Are you ready for this, audience? Walter takes my glossies and he starts throwing them on the floor, and he starts going, see these? See Jon Hunter stuff? Lies, 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 lies. I'm mortified. I'm sweating. I'm panicking. Do I shut it down? Do I yank him off the floor? Until I turn my head and I look at, and they're all starting to smile. And their arms become unfolded. And they start leaning in. And they're listening. And I went, whoa, wait a minute. What's going on here? And Walter gets on the whiteboard and he says, you got three options. Their way, the major competitor, which was Tivoli at the time. He doesn't disparage them. He gives their point of view. He describes their philosophy. He describes their approach. He gives them a positive, what's good about it. He challenges what he thinks is the limitations of that approach. He then goes to option two. Hear this one. Do nothing. Fractured integration points, point solutions, status quo. Maybe you don't do anything. Maybe you just take the risk of doing absolutely nothing. Maybe downtime's acceptable. Maybe your culture's not ready. Maybe leadership isn't in place. I think it's risky. I think it's got challenges, which he points out. And then there's our way, our point of view, our philosophy, our framework approach, our integration approach, our openness versus closeness. And then he says, of the three approaches, the one I would go to personally is ours, but with the following caveats. It's going to cost more than you have budgeted, and it's going to take longer than you have presently mapped out. They're taking notes. They're flipping over. They're waiting to ask questions. We did that deal 90 days faster than forecasted, 30 or 40% bigger, and successful. And if that isn't the beginning of high value networking, if that wasn't the beginning of me understanding the trust problem, if that wasn't the beginning of saying no to get to yes, if that wasn't the beginning of the anti-sales sales approach that is glaringly missing to this day in every sales corner of the world that I go to, the Walter Schaefer's, the lies, the anti-sales sales approach. Can I help you as a doctor? I don't know. I need to know more about you. And I'm willing to shut down my sale if I cannot genuinely help you. That was the big, I didn't know it at the time, but that became the beginning of my approach. And it now is embedded in a lot of my systems and programs. Does that resonate as a good example?
Yeah, it does. And you know, what's going through my mind is that like sometimes we show up thinking we know what that other person wants, and if we don't take the time to figure out what actually matters to them and realize, maybe swallow the ego a little bit, that maybe like the flashy suit wearing, tie wearing guy is probably not the best person to deliver what they want. We can borrow credibility and earn trust by doing that. And fast track, a real trusted relationship. So it definitely resonates. Sounds like Walter was a legend. I know when I was at CA Technology, I had a chance of working with some really, really brilliant mainframe specialists. So I don't know if I ever crossed paths with Walter, but I could imagine what that was like.
Well, you would have known, because when he shows up, his shirt's always untucked. I think he had coffee on his collar. He looked like them. He spoke like them. And he actually did not care if you bought that product or not, which is the essence of what people want when they're in a buying relationship. Remember, what's critical about this, guys, which is why I think enterprise software is the most competitive industry on the planet. There's so much innovation happening, but it's all mission critical. So if we get it wrong for those people, they could lose their jobs. Mainframe people provide systems for airplanes, for weapons systems, for banking systems. If they go down, they're fired. And they're looking at you to say, do you understand what it's like to be me? Where's the empathy in our sales cultures? Out the window. What's in it for me? No pausing, no understanding. I get you, dude. If you fail, your boss loses their job, their earnings could be affected, their CIO could get fired. If it's over $1 million, it's highly likely going to dent, if not damage, their career. And I just don't think we take that empathy and that knowledge of who we're doing business with, especially in that case. Now, look, if you're selling an iPhone and some other less critical things, it's different. But my upbringing on this trust game was, holy cow, I don't want to be the guy that brings down Honeywell and American Express and Wells Fargo and the Department of Defense and the U.S. Army. I care about them being successful. And so I want to get it right. And if that means slowing down to go fast, then that was embedded in who I was listening to. And I think that was a big part of the equation.
So I want to double tap on something here, because you as a leader are driving a lot of the culture around empathy and slowing down to make sure you do the right things, and like understanding who you're talking with as well. And then I would imagine that there's also, especially in sales, I've been there, not anywhere near the complexities that you have, but like you still have to execute. You still have to be able to forecast. You still have to be able to deliver. And so and then there's the stack ranking thing too, especially for new people coming to the org and looking at somebody that they perceive to be successful. And so you run into this situation where it's like, even if I know that the right thing might be like stepping back and slowing down, part of me is saying I have to like maybe like bend, twist, and like push forward. And it's I'm curious to see, like, how do you think about reconciling what feels like being pulled in two directions? And from the you realizing that high value networking and anti-sales approach, to then also like spearheading that, like, tell me a little bit about what you think there.
Well, listen, the basis of a lot of my teaching, Jeremy, is under what you've heard me talk about. It's the monk and the hitman. It's a James Bond quote from a James Bond movie where his boss lets him have it because he kills a low-level bad guy. And he's like, look, what are you mad about? It's kind of like, hey, we got the deal done. And she says, that's not what we were here for. We were here to capture him so we could get the bigger bad guys. And she looks at him like, ego and self-awareness don't go hand in hand. And, maybe this is too much for a thug to understand. And that resonated with me because thugs don't work well with me. And I was a thug. I'm a reformed barbarian. I've often used that term, that I'm reforming the thinking that if we don't hammer them, we won't get it done. So we need monk and hitman or hitwoman. We need the ability to know. Think about the Honeywell example. Did the deal get pushed out because of Walter's behavior and get smaller and become more in jeopardy? Or did it get faster and bigger? It became faster and bigger because of this confidence, but it also took a person who knows them. And so when deployed properly, we're not the Red Cross. I tell customers all the time, we live in a capitalistic society. Sometimes I will start sales kickoffs and customer meetings let me give you a history of capitalism. Let me give you a history of why quarters matter. If we perform and the stock goes up, we make more investments. And so we have to watch this reciprocation of the monk and the hitman. And the hitman really means executing and following through and being super accountable for the action items that come after the Walter meeting, so we can get everything done in time, but also have a delighted customer. We're going to have a delighted customer in our time frame. And this is the bar for me. Big deals in our timeline with delighted customers. Is that freaking hard? Absolutely. Which is why I teach building the best sales force on the planet, not the most average sales force on the planet, because it is freaking hard and requires sacrifice, discipline, preparation, studying. Some of the stuff you're building, that stuff's not nice to have for me. That's how I get high up in orgs. That's how I got so many people to come together on what the solution should look like. And I got tons of other examples where, we're getting so, myopically focused on myself that we Tommy Boyed the deal. We light it on fire because we can't get out of our own way wanting to close now, and we haven't earned it, or we haven't mitigated the risk, or worse, we do the deal, but the deal's not done right. It's not architected right. And unfortunately, it's the last deal we do with that customer because they're pissed off. It doesn't renew correctly. It doesn't get embraced. It doesn't get adopted. And so weaving those two worlds together is the bane of my existence. It is not easy. I'm not advocating that it's easy. I'm advocating that it's hard. I'm advocating that the cultures in most industries have gotten away from it altogether because of COVID and stimulus and other things. And so I think it needs to make a resurgence of at least trying to get back to integrating those two worlds.
I'm kind of feeling like this is even more important today than it's probably ever been because of some big macro themes like the TikTok generation, where people that are coming into the workforce and coming into the sales companies, and both from the people that are selling as well as buyer attention, this expectation of like instant and immediate gratification, combined with the, we rent accounts in a lot of cases, right? So like there is this, I don't actually own the account. So am I going to be here if I slow down? Am I going to, the job market's gnarly right now. Like, am I going to have a job if I actually don't do this? And then what that does is it kind of drives everyone, I think, to grip the bat a lot tighter. And it's tough because it's like, it's so like almost counterintuitive to like all of these things that are happening that it's more important now than ever. So I really think.
Well, let me just touch on that real quickly. It did get expanded in that way. Stimulus and COVID is one reason, because a lot of revenue came in a way that doesn't follow these rules. So I'm not a very popular guy in 2022 because I'm about discipline, broccoli, burpees, drinking water, doing push-ups, metaphorically for business. And if you can get healthy and skinny without doing that, why would you? You're like, hey, Jon Hunter, this is bullshit. I don't want to do any of this work. And I'm making my numbers, and all these CROs were making 2% of the equity table. And I'm looking at them like, guys, none of this revenue is real. Working 10 to 4, working at home, mailing it, but the revenue was coming in. So it was bigger than that. It gave everybody, plus societal things and generations, this false sense of security that you can be successful in this industry by mailing it in a little bit. And now you look at what's going on. You talk about the job market. My stuff, candidly, is more attractive today than it's ever been, because I have people who are using my approach to pipeline building, slowing down, studying the personas, hey, giving value, asking for nothing in return. And guess what? They're getting more meetings. They're getting higher level meetings. They're progressing pipeline, and they're blowing out their numbers. And a shameful plug, my son, who's now selling in Dallas, is one of them, where it's empathy and studying and using AI to understand who are you in the zoo, and, oh, you played football, or you were in the military, or I read your podcast. You spoke about this, that, and that. That was really cool. You should meet this other lady who has a similar point of view. And people are going, oh my God, no one's ever talked to me that way. How can I help you? Oh, I've been trying to get to you and your boss. Well, come on in. Next thing you know, the numbers are not going down. The numbers are going up. And so it works, but you got to be ready for it. You got to do the upfront work. And, it can't be seduced that there's a lazier way. And right now it's pretty clear. There's the lazy way is not working.
Yeah. I'm with you 1,000% on this. And I want to actually go into one of your frameworks that you talk about, called the trust acceleration machine. And you and I have talked about this, so this is less about for me knowing about it. Maybe you could share a little bit about like, what does that actually mean to you? And maybe give us like the high level there. And I'd love to know, how is that different than what most people are actually doing? So orient us around that framework a little bit.
Well, listen, if you take the backdrop we just talked about, that, hey, I'm in this industry that's been oversold and underdelivered from day one. So remember the Honeywell people never met me before, but don't trust me. That's weird. So that's the thesis across the whole industry. And so then you go and you make Honeywell, they realize, oh, Jon Hunter's different. Walter came in, we did it differently. And so all of a sudden you have this endorsement. You have this person that says, hey, Jon Hunter's different. So now I want to get to Lockheed Martin or a sister company or people that have worked at Honeywell. And you start approaching them, and you don't need to sell Jon Hunter anymore. You're selling the concept of what went on at Honeywell. So now it's don't trust me. I get you don't trust me. You don't want to know why? I look like the 800 other bald white dudes with glasses that called on you from CA or Oracle or whenever that kind of screwed you a little bit or were short-sighted. So we're working on differentiating ourselves. We're working on, oh, wait a minute. You did business with American Express successfully? That's hard to do. So it doesn't give you carte blanche, but the trust walls start coming down just a little bit. And then you give them a little wisdom. You give them some anecdotes. You give them an artifact, which they've been manipulated on before. So you're still not asking for anything in return. This is the laws of reciprocation. We're going to allow those to go to work. This is above and beyond MedPick, above and beyond Challenger, above and beyond all of our other traditional marketing messaging machines. So we're bringing those walls down. None of that other stuff's going to make it to the mindset that has been burnt, that has been abused, that has been manipulated. We need to address that they've been oversold and underdelivered. We need to be boldly, with self-deprecating humor. And, I can give you examples when I would show up with sales reps and you can tell they're new to it, and they bring me to the meeting and I see the VP and doing the arms folded. And I look at him and I'd say, if my rep tells you our stuff works out of the box, I'm throwing them out of that window right there. And we're on like the 13th floor. And you could see the rep going, what is he freaking talking about? And then you look back at the customer and the arms are unfolded. Because that customer, Jeremy, knows that it's not about the code. It's about people, leadership, change management, culture. And I want to get into that. So it gives them, oh, you're different. And so I have a whole industry. So what do we start doing? I start putting greens, yellows, and reds. These guys are green. What does green mean for me and my system? They buy from me on a regular basis in a very predictable manner. I can see them almost whenever I want, activities and communication. And they speak publicly on my behalf, not for a payment, not to go to a conference. And I love hearing from people that I'll get it on this podcast. Oh, John, my customer doesn't approve of that. It's total bullshit. They all do it. For the ones that have earned it, they will do it. Or they're not green. They just aren't. They're yellow. And yellow's good. Yellow is some subset of green, and red is less than that. Red is, I hate you. CA screwed me in the 90s, or open text, or Oracle, and so we're methodically moving yellows to green and reds to yellow, and and you're taking those anecdotes and you're giving away the value, and before you know it, it's a trust accelerating machine.
Mm-hmm.
Before you know it, people are calling you back and they're bringing you to that higher level meeting, and they're giving you the crown jewels of their pain, and because you've earned it. And it's okay, here's what's really going on here. We had an outage and we're losing millions of dollars per minute, and because they can trust you. And I know that's the essence of Feather, and your whole thing is, how do we, well, this is going after that scar tissue in a methodical, strategic, programmatic nature. It's making it less about us. It's making it more about them, that we're committed to them, helping them. And we know that the laws of reciprocation are real. There's data out there. I was just studying this Edelman Trust Barometer. Consistently shows how this laws of reciprocation works. So it's like a real thing. It's not just a Jon Hunter thing. That when we help people genuinely and don't follow it up with, come to my conference, and meet with me and my boss. It's just a genuine, hey, I think you would like this report. My other customer uses this on how they solved a problem. And then you do it with purpose, like all the Amex people, for example. If you go look at a lot of the banks back in the day, a lot of them flew out of Amex into other banks. So they care about what Amex is doing. So if you've had success at Visa and Amex and Wells and Schwab, and you're giving them a thing that has nothing to do with your product, something to do with their industry, they're reading that. Oh my God. And then they're waiting for you to screw it up by jamming something on them. And when you don't, they're going, wow, they're putting you in that column of, oh my God, I want to get to know these guys a little bit better, and a little bit better. Then boom, your pipeline is just soaring, your access is soaring. And so it's not good enough. And I've talked to others like you who want to stop on the connection points. And I said, you can't do that. You got to flow it all the way through with the laws of reciprocation, or you'll end up bringing down some of the trust walls, and then you'll send yourself backwards by kind of thinking you've earned the right to sell them something. And that's where it can break down. Does that make sense?
It definitely makes sense. And I think there's another challenging dynamic that I'd love to call out, see what you think about this, which is misalignment of trust building and relationship building in enterprises. And it depends on the type of industry. Like, one of the reasons we're with Feather starting with insurance brokers is because they own their book. And so when I have a relationship with Jon Hunter for 20 years, I can continue building trust with you. But now if you look at any of the enterprise software organizations, at least the ones that I've been a part of, I rent my territory as a sales rep. I have a team that changes, and there's reorgs and restructuring. And as you go up higher and higher, maybe there's more continuity at the leadership level. But
used to be.
Yeah. And there's so much change that's happening. But now if you think, just going back to the red, yellow, and green, and you really clicked into that, it's, Amex, there's 100 people on Amex side, that there's 30 people in the delivery and pre-sales and post-sales team at CA that's talking to all of these different people at all different times, and the continuity is constantly shifting. And so I think it's really hard, because it feels like there's a misalignment, and I don't know how to solve this, but when we do, it's going to be glorious, and we're going to. But there feels like a misalignment and a misincentive here, which is if I treat you like a contact record and dump you into a CRM, and I'm encouraged to build trust with you, and then you go to a new account, or I get shifted to a different territory, or if I leave the company even, I can't transfer that relationship and the trust to somebody else. You know what I mean? And so how do we solve for this misalignment? And if you don't have an answer, we could take this offline and kind of like pontificate a little bit on it, but you know what I mean?
I got it. No, you're not going to like the answer. CROs aren't going to like the answer. CEOs aren't going to like the answer, but why it flows into high value networking is not my only initiative and product and program. I have building the best sales force on the planet. I have building the best leadership team on the planet, because we cannot have 50% turnover on that. We cannot have transient relationships. We have to make a decision that we are going to have strategic relationships from the top to the bottom, that we care about our customer satisfaction, our NPS. It means that we're not going to roll out growth targets that are going to corrupt and force everybody to oversell and underdeliver. But keep in mind, the discipline in the monk and the hitman this is not the Red Cross. I mean, people who work for me or follow me into the zealot nature of this, they care about their people, and they're recruiting what I call corporate athletes. You're looking for people strategically. You're developing managers and leaders strategically, because we're going to work with customer success and everybody else across the spectrum, the customer. This is going to be our way of life. And if you don't want this way of life, go try the other way, which is littering right now the venture capital world, the private equity world. Go look at the public company earnings where this isn't at play, where we don't care about the rep turnover. We don't care about the training. Go try to find leadership development right now at scale anywhere. It's non-existent, because it went out the window with what I'm calling the fake unicorn period, right? We don't need all that shit, Jeremy. Let's just go do deals and roll out our product and jam it, and we'll go public, and we're not going to be here in 10 years anyways. And so I'm very much a contrarian, and that's just why my business will not be an overnight success either, because I am not trying to build this for everybody. I think there's going to be some people who say, hey, I want to formulate my strategy around a different way. I want to truly build relationships with my customers a particular way, and we're going to be disciplined, which is going to give you more results more consistently. So this actually is a growth engine. I've demonstrated, I've grown double digits in difficult brands. It works, but it is multifaceted. It's funny. I was just showing my control book. I'm going to bring this up for you if people look at it. This is the control book from 2011 in a business review meeting. Well, guess what's in here? My scorecards for managers on their employee turnover and their customer satisfaction, their operational excellence scorecard, we call it the A plan, and their business results. Everyone has a high value networking target as an SVP. Every VP, every director, even our CEO, were given 10 strategics. And we measured it, and we rewarded, and we paid people based on some of these fundamentals. And then you were ranked in a meritocracy. And if you didn't want to work in that world, guess what? You tended not to join that world. And it really works. So, but the answer to your question is, it's not easy. It's multifaceted. It's across all divisions. And because of that, it'll be hard, but right for those who are committed, I think, to long-term success.
And I come back to feeling like what you're saying and what you're building and what you're coaching and developing people on is more important than it's ever been. It's also really well aligned to what we're trying to bolster from a technology standpoint as well. That with so much optionality right now, and we're going to go into one more topic here about how people are just saturated by it, right? It's and I've shared this kind of analogy a few times. Sometimes my wife sends me to the supermarket to go get her a can of soup, and I stand there dumbfounded looking at this wall of 5,000 cans of soup, and it's hard to choose what's out there. And if you have too much coming at you, there's so much going on. And I think that it's the combination of the new workforce having the need to leverage the technology and the automation with so much that's out there and so much noise and chaos and clutter in our lives. It's forcing a shift. It may not be overnight for every enterprise software company or every enterprise, kind of go-to-market motion, but the one constant is the true, authentic relationship that you earn over effort, right? Like, it's not about the product. Things are going to break. We have to show up and we have to be accountable to that, right? So yeah, I think that what you're talking about is incredibly important and very timely, and there's going to be this big
Yeah, I hope so. I because of this, I do tend to spend a lot of time with not just sellers but with buyers. That's what that. So I'm with Jim McGuire from Schwab. Want some names? I'm with Steve Squeary at American Express. Steve is probably the biggest voice was in my life because Steve ran the head of sales at Amex. He then became CIO. That's when I really got to know him as a supplier. And then he became COO. Now he's CEO of the bank. So when people come to me, hey, where are you getting some of this from? Who are examples? Where are reference points? Well, go meet Steve Square. He's 6'8". He's from Queens. He is the most brutally direct. Some of his people may listen to this and they'll go, he's not actually 6'8", but he's a big dude. And he's from Queens. And he's as direct as they come, but he's also as smart and empathetic. And he's as great of a leader as I've ever met in this world. And he has a great example where we're doing a big deal, Jeremy. Listen to this one to go back to your point of win now and win for the long haul. So now I have this guy, my relationship is with Steve and others. All those other relationships are going on, and we're about to sell them this big application. And Steve looks at me one day near the end of the quarter, end of the year, and he says, hey, he's like, John, if you let my people customize this application, he goes, I'm going to hold you personally accountable. Jeremy, I was kind of a novice at this whole thing at the time. I'm just super excited to do this gigantic deal. Can't believe I'm meeting with this guy. He's guiding me on how to get it done. And then I look at him and I'm like, why would your people do that? We're doing this new thing to replace the old thing. And he says, watch, that's what people do. They'll customize it. They're going to make it look like the old thing. And I'm trying to eradicate the old thing. And you're part of the team. So I'm saying, I think Steve's got this wrong. I think he's misaligned on this one. Sure enough, we get to a couple of weeks, the end of the year, the end of the quarter. The team is doing a review with a woman named Kathy Sherman, freaking legend, love her, but don't know her. And Kathy is telling the team, you know what? In order to do this deal, we need ownership language in the contract. For those who don't know, you rarely do that. It means someone may want to customize your thing so much that they want to own the thing, potentially preventing you from upgrades, preventing you from servicing them long term. So now I have Steve in the back of my voice. I have to do the deal, Jeremy. The reps do not give a shit about Steve Squarey.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 15 million or something. Someone's going to make $1 million. I need it. The VPs need it. So what do? This is about integrity. This is about character. This is about me knowing I need Steve with me for the rest of my career, similar to your life insurance people. But I need the deal done. So I jump on the call and I said, hey, Kat, and I said something funny like, hey, Kathy, let me tell you why you don't really want ownership language. We're not even sure we want to own this thing. I try to be funny and self-deprecating. I try to explain what she's really concerned about, try to alleviate those concerns, but the answer was really no. And Kathy gets pissed off, calls Steve behind the scenes and says, I want Jon Hunter fired. This is bullshit. And Steve says, well, he's not going to get fired. Matter of fact, he's getting promoted next month, which he knew about. and he said, listen, this is why he's saying that. And so she got a little embarrassed. We ended up doing the deal properly, no ownership language. I had dinner with Kathy a few months later. She became a lifelong friend and a huge CIO at Kaiser Permanente, just to give you an idea how powerful this woman is. And she realized what I was doing was trying to protect her. I didn't have the green with her, so it got bumpy. But it's a real example for everyone out there. And then we could tailor it into life insurance so easily. But I needed Steve. I needed Kathy. I needed the deal. I needed everything to be done right, but I needed it done now. And that took a lot of upfront work, but it also took courage and conviction at that time. A lot of people would have said, hey, let's punt on this deal for next quarter. A lot of people would have given the ownership language and been screwed with Steve for the long haul. The question is, can we do both? And that's an example where I still can talk to Steve to this day and Kathy, and the deal got done. Is that kind of hit home on how to bridge both?
It hits home so well, and it reminds me of a deal I did with a company called Ingram Micro years ago. It was really hard to go crack into that particular account, and I came in through the roof and built such a strong relationship that I went to my buddy's wedding, who was the guy that said no. It was the mainframe guy that you were describing that had his arms crossed up front, became a champion, did the transaction, and I went to his 50th birthday party in Jamaica with him 10 years later. And like it really does take sometimes saying no and sometimes showing up and align. I could think of a lot of Kathy's and Steve's out there.
Well, listen, when you have it there, you just made me think of is when we build currency with customers, this is one where it gets weird with people on the other side that are not hit women, but they're more overly monk, where they think they're, and we got into this when we moved pre-sales people into sales and customer success people into sales, where they think, hey, customer is always right. You know, let's just placate them. And we built a ton of currency. And I said, no. Currency is meant to be spent. You're going to get rough. It's going to get bumpy. And I call that the Irish kitchen. And we can go into what the Irish kitchen is. But the Irish kitchen is sometimes we're going to have it out. We're going to get into it. Not because I want money, because I want what's right. And they don't see what's right. And I don't have their view right. And we have to go at it. And that is where we spend currency to get there. And Mike Dreyer, the CIO at Visa, he's now doing other things. But Mike, we spoke about this at a conference once where I was teaching it to a bunch of customers. And I said, this guy has thrown me out of Visa multiple times because we were arguing, taking services out, or do we need a censure in here? And, Mike would call me up and no, we're going to do it smaller. Or we're going to change it. And I'm like, no, we can't do that, Mike. It won't work, and hang up the phone and get Hunter out of here, and get him back in here, and because it's rough and it's emotional, but the understanding is we care about each other and we want to win-win for the long haul is built, so it allows us to spend that currency, and that I hope that we don't lose that in this whole network power networking value currency building. We don't just build the currency to keep it and invite people to our weddings just because they're nice. We gotta be solving problems together, and that sometimes gets lost. Yeah,
and we've been talking a lot so far about existing relationships. These are relationships in motion already, right? And when we talk about prospecting and we talk about building the first step of a relationship. Actually, when I was doing a lot of coaching around, how do you show up for people in a thoughtful way? Even in that first email, I kind of talk about this. So some people might have heard me talk about it. I have a bad habit of rolling over at 5 o'clock or, 4:45 in the morning and checking my email. And I don't know that I will live much longer if I continue doing that, because every time my wife catches me, it's a sharp elbow to the rib cage, because it's not a rollover and give her a nice hug and a kiss and tell her how much I love her, which she deserves for sure. But I just have this habit of rolling over and looking and refreshing my email. And so even in that first touch point, like if you're going to slide into the email and I'm going to open that at 5 o'clock in the morning, risking getting an elbow, it's a negotiation in that exact moment for my kind of well-being and health in some cases. Right. And I'm obviously joking around a little bit about it, but I think that every touch point from that initial one all the way through the lifetime of a relationship is a value exchange, right? It is about finding ways to whether it's through joy or through business value or through excitement or opportunity or whatever it is. It's really awesome, like when you create those and you lean into those kind of relationships. And I wanted to make sure we took a couple minutes on one final like main topic here, which is like the first time that you build a relationship. And you said something that was really bold when we were talking. You said, "I will not endorse a need to cold call."
Yeah.
And we live in a world where like metrics and volume and AI automation, more email, more dials, more activity, more of this, more of that. I'd love to hear just your perspective on what you feel is broken about like cold outreach and the cold outreach model today.
Well, man, I just want to throw my phone through the screen on this one, man. I mean, look, I was going to show you my LinkedIn. I probably have, since AI really started getting going, I probably get 5 a day. Hey, Jon Hunter, Honor X would like to be this. We'll do quality control for you. App debt. Just the most nonsensical reach outs on cold calls. People picking up the phone. Now, I talk to these people when they cold call me now because I try to educate them. 99% of the time, I'm Jon Hunter, a cybersecurity guy in Dallas. Their lists are wrong. No common sense to go look at LinkedIn. I particularly pride myself of putting my whole entire life out on LinkedIn. You're a moron to cold call me. Moronic to cold call anybody. It's just a complete and utter laziness factor, either driven by AI, and the people that are using AI like this are the people that never thought about your product or what your approach is. They're people that just think, hey, I sold door-to-door Bibles or copiers in 1994, and even then it was unnecessary. A guy named Harvey McKay taught. I had Harvey speak at multiple events in the 90s and 2000s, and his thing was networking and no need to cold call. And so now we consider his thing and our thing this Hunter X 60 things that you can discover about somebody. Forget AI, but now with AI even better. I mean, I can't tell you how many account reviews I would do when I was at Micro Focus. There'd be 18 people reviewing an account and saying, well, I wonder what the cloud strategy is for, T-Mobile. I don't know. Anyone think about going to the CIO's blog posts and the last 2 podcasts they're on and study that she just attended the Amazon Summit and she would look at her past 7 jobs and the fact that she's been certified in Azure. I mean, it's like, what's going on here? No, good, smart people not doing any due diligence, not wondering, hey, they went to school. Oh, they were in the military. Oh, they posted about this and say, hey, tell me more about that. Or I want to give you a kudos for going to this thing. And now with AI, why not have a standard set of prompts to know before I get on the phone? So it's warmth. It's warm networking touch points. Oh my gosh. Jim McGuire used to work at American. I never knew Jim McGuire. I knew that he worked at American Express a long time ago. Guess who else worked at American Express? Mike Dreyer when he was at Visa. So you think it was relevant to him when I shared, hey, here's how Amex is thinking about cloud migrations back in the day? They were doing a core, non-core exercise, Jeremy. Simple. Core, non-core. Core meaning does it core to banking, or non-core, it's mission critical, but it's not core to banking. Nothing proprietary, nothing top secret, just a high level approach to understanding workloads. Everyone and their brother that was in banking valued that exercise at the time. You get any meeting you want. Don't sell anything. I have no product aligned with that. There's nothing in it for me. But I knew they worked there, and I know they know it's a well-run organization, and it comes with a level of currency. And so when you do this studying of these 60, 50, 40-odd things, and this is what Feather is onto, and you're connecting those dots, and you're going, oh, my gosh, you went to Naval Academy? So did my other customer from Naval Academy. You guys should know each other. You have similar views on cybersecurity, or let's use life insurance. My father-in-law is in life insurance, so I'm partial to that business. I believe life insurance has a similar pain as software. So the fact that you're crushing it with somebody who trusts you implicitly to put their family's well-being with you, and probably does it because of not your product, it probably has very little to do with your product, probably that you're a trustworthy, long-term person who cares about their kids, cares about not overselling them. So who would you go to next? You'd probably go to the 6 people that person has trust with, and then the 6 people, and the 6, and then the 6. Go try to do the warm messaging inward out that way compared to cold calling all those people randomly, which has no numbers that make that process work. It's just flawed. It's always been flawed. The only time it really worked was when I think you just represented a product that was so hot, that is such product market fit. You know, it's like selling the hypervisor when the hypervisor comes out, and you call anybody, hey, you want a hypervisor? And like, yeah, you need tomorrow. And I never had that product, Jeremy. So I've never been in that world. So I am wrong occasionally. And where I'm wrong is when you're selling an iPhone after it was known the BlackBerry's moronic. And I guess you don't really need to do all this work when you're selling that. But for the most part, cold calling is moronic. It's stupid. It's unproductive. It's unnecessary. And a lot of times it's harmful because you're just making the trust gap wider. You're pouring gasoline onto an already festering wound, and your brand's going to become contaminated with it.
Yeah. And you said something that like kind of stuck out to me. So it's not IQ. It's not an IQ problem because there's a lot of smart people out there. And even if you're not a high IQ, you now have ChatGPT or Claude in your pocket that can go turn you into 200 IQ overnight, right? Like, so IQ isn't the excuse. So is it a lack of curiosity or is it laziness? What do you think?
I think it's one is an historical mindset and sales ops and rev ops, and I'm a little cynical on that sector right now because I think they help make this problem worse with tools and products. They don't really need to do all this. That you can numberize it. It's a numbers game, and there's some truthfulness to data and science around numbers, but it's not skipping this process that I'm referring to. So I think some of it is, hey, look, sales is a numbers game. Cold calling is what it is. You're just not calling enough. If you just called more and you used Gong appropriately and you got some decent coaching in there, just more numbers, more conversions, get rid of the laziness. And I think there's a historical sales approach that says more numbers, more success. Second problem, the frontline manager community among young people has gotten so bad, especially during COVID, that the managers of these SDRs are sitting in their offices and all they're doing is jamming heat and fear on these young people. So now you have a young person who maybe has a buyer on the phone and they really want to develop it appropriately, but then in the back of their mind, they're number 37 on the leaderboard. Their boss is scaring the shit out of them. So now they feel they have no time and energy to develop it correctly. So they're jamming them to make their fearful, awful boss happy. And it's making it really bad. I mean, these managers have no training. There's no coaching. No, there's little coaching going on. There's no teaching going on. I was taught as a young person, thank God, that when we got a prospect on the phone, he taught us the first thing. Your prospect has no idea that you have no pipeline or not. So we were taught to show up, I am slammed. What? Oh, yeah. Jon Hunter. Yeah. Hey, Bob, I need to make this call. I need to end right at 60 minutes, and I need you to come prepared. And I need you to go through the pain that we're in after we're not HVNing, we're networking our way in, and we're opening up a little bit. Still not good enough. You know, we need to know that you're really in pain. I need you to And that gets corrupted when the manager is just hammering that rep. You need to just get the meeting, or you just need to show some level of success or pain. And it corrupts the entire, that person was right on the verge of developing real pain, a real relationship that would have led to a huge high quality opportunity. But because of the really awful frontline managers, we just want to jam them into a metric to satisfy some VP CRO type who's fallen so in love with that data. I mean, we've over rotated on science for sure. And we need to get back into this efficacy and listening to the phone calls and teaching the rep on, hey, pause. They don't know that you have no pipeline today. We want to, flush that out, pain out. Tell them you can't meet with them today. I can meet with you Friday or next Tuesday, which shows that value for your time, value for the relationship, which then brings that warm pain opportunity to the surface. And so I think all of that, and then AI, just if you're a shortcut artist before, you're just going to be a worse shortcut artist with AI, because now you're jamming all that shit. You're getting rid of a lot of good people, and you're just pumping out, spamming more people than ever. And so I think those are three major elements to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and that's really kind of a good segue into the last part of our chat here. But to your point, like, I have this theory, and I might be wrong, but this is kind of what my observation is. If we can automate those junk emails at scale, your inbox is no longer a way to go get access to you. If we can clone ourselves and digitally twin ourselves and do a agentic sales campaign and cold calling through parallel dialers, and then your phone is no longer a way to access you. And even if we use LinkedIn second degree or these network, warm intro path, expose our networks, we saturate our networks, and then our networks are no longer, a way to go get to people as well. And so I think it all comes back down into, like, pause, take a breath, figure out who is that person, find a way to connect with them, think about this more in the long haul. And that goes in some ways against some of the go-to-market motions that are happening. It's like the go-to-market engineer is coming up and do more, right? And the territory management and, the shifting of teams and all of that versus, like, hey, what about the human piece of this? So I think,
yeah, you're right. And so it brings us full circle to the beginning, which is, if we don't have that right at the top, as far as how we want to grow the company, realistic goal setting, realistic productivity numbers, realistic everything for the long haul, you're going to get into that. Every metric coming out of Gartner, coming out of Forrester, says the trust opinions of the buyers is, the gap is wider than ever. So I'm not here looking for work. I wouldn't have done this if I didn't see it work and make money. I mean, let's just be clear here. I'm not in the, feel good. Look at the companies I've been at. I mean, I've been in the most ruthless win or else brand issues, high contested competition everywhere. This slow down to go fast works. That more methodical approach, that customer works. It gets you higher faster. Some of them are just going to have to touch the stove, though. To your point, they've burnt themselves. They're saturating it. They're putting good money on top of bad money. They're putting more pressure in the balloon. I don't work with just anybody. I mean, if they're still in that category, I would tell them, good luck. Let me know when you've blown your ankles off and it doesn't work anymore, or you get fired and you want another way, because this way works, but it does take a point of view and a from the top to the bottom on how to treat customers. And the data is out there and the people are screaming for it. And so it's good for me. For those that want to do it differently, I'm here to help.
Yeah, and I love that. And so let's wrap up with there are going to be people who listen to this, and there's a lot of people who probably don't even know that this conversation exists. But when they find it, and they feel helpless in a society which is pushing for the metrics and pushing for the fast close and pushing for the AI, easy button. Can you give us one tactical or strategic, one thing that can be implemented today, regardless of what organization or what dynamic I'm in, so I can do this today that's going to make an impact on my business, my relationships? What would you say that one thing is?
Well, I did this. This is a real example. As I came out of working in the big corporate world, one of my coaching clients was a founder of a small business, about 400 grand of revenue, not in software. And his first request to me was helping him with his SEO engine and all this algorithm stuff out of social media. And I'm not good at that. I'm like, I don't know. And then I just said he was confused, he was spending money and he wasn't getting the return. And I just said, hey, listen, anyone out there can do this. I said, who's your number one customer? And he said, Mary Smith, runs a school district. He does training for drugs and alcohol, training for kids and teachers. So who's your biggest raging fan? Mary Smith, Tampa, Florida. Great. Let's go start with her, one. And let's just know everything about her, remind her, and just tell her, to expand on other aspects of her business, what's really going on. And then ask her, who does she spend time with outside of her own org? Well, it was Bob Miller over another school district, someone else over here, there. Hey, what if we start setting up little podcasts and little networking shows? And, and then it's, Mary Smith, there was 4 to Mary Smith, and the podcast went to those 4. Oh, I didn't know Mary Smith is using you, Jake. And so he slowed down, inventoried his greens, and it can be 1. And then he started working outwards. He's at $1.8 million in sustainable revenue or something like that, because he built it from who loves us, who we're delighting today, back to the red, yellow, and green, and then working for who she influences next, and then starting putting them on a little bit of a pedestal, giving them he started doing high value networking Zoom calls. Not to talk about his product, talk about what's it like to be you, to work in these schools, to work in that industry. Again, laws of reciprocity. People come off those calls going, oh my God, this was so helpful for me. How can I help you? Well, funny you should ask. I have a service that is, he goes, I had no idea you did that. You should come meet with my team and present. Deals started happening, a lot less weird SEO search engine nonsense. I don't know who listening out here couldn't just go tomorrow, slow everything down, find your top 1, your top 5. Last plug on that. We did that at CA in the early days. We started in San Francisco with 3. We called them high value networking conferences. We did it in the Ritz-Carlton. It was the CIO at Kaiser. It was Mike Dreyer, Visa. We couldn't even afford to stay in Napa. So what we did is we did a little conference in the Ritz, drove to Napa for the day, and drove back, which is a long day. And by the end of our HVM program, we had over 100 to 200 attending each of these conferences around the country. And we became prolifically linked to the C-level suite of almost every enterprise. But we started with 3, just like my friend started with 1. And I don't see why everyone listening, I don't care if 10 people listen, this is what you do. You start with your 1 to your 3 to your 5, delight the craziness out of them, understand who everything they are and who are they tightest with, and work outward in, and you watch it just take off.
High value networking. I love it. And you know what's amazing about that? It's so practical, and it's so I don't want to say it's easy. None of this stuff is easy, but like when you're intentional and you go down that path, like these are people who already like you. It's like imagine getting a call from somebody that you like. Yeah, sure, pick up the phone. Like, let's talk about it. Let's oh, you're gonna help me, you're gonna add more value to me. Like, that's an easy conversation. It's way easier to get that than the single digit, if that, conversion rates out of cold emails and cold calling. So I love it. That's amazing.
Well, the last thing for the listeners, it's not selling. I mean, if you look at what's happening now, you know who's selling for you? The greens are selling for you.
Mm-hmm.
They are so excited at the problem they solved, and you get to put them on a pedestal and speak to their peers, which now this is where the conflict would come in, because the marketing teams would always want to put our products on the agenda. And I would say, no, that's a hard one for people to get ready for. We would have the customers speak about their success story, however they wanted to say it. And our product may be a small part of it. That's what you got to take with this, is you don't have to sell anything. The laws of reciprocation are going to work. You're going to be asked. They're going to sell you as part of this broader solution. And then you just got to show up and treat them the same way you treated your green, and you're going to be off to the races. It takes all the stress out. It takes all the anxiety out of selling. It takes all the anxiety out of closing. And that's a big deal for me, man. If you can help people not fear selling, boy, that would be cool.
Yeah, it's lucrative, it's valuable on both ends, it creates opportunity. It's just awesome. Jon, this has been like a true wealth of nuggets of brilliance and knowledge. For everyone who's listening, if they want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get a hold of Jon Hunter?
Email me, john@hunterxlife.com. I'm on LinkedIn. Find me, Hunter X Enterprises. I have a website that's still in construction, but www.hunterxlife.com. We're going to start putting out more specifics on HVN as a consultative, advisable service. If you want to work on building the best sales force on the planet, I have curriculums on how to recruit, how to build the meritocracy, how to kind of engineer some of this. I have the best leadership team on the planet, because if we don't have leadership really front and center, as you would imagine, Jeremy, that's all this is going to break down. And then I have an underlying theme under this, guys, which is the integrity and the character that is mandatory for a lot of what we're saying is not easy. So we have to have long-term thinking and integrity and self-esteem. So I put that under what I call responsibility psychology. And so those are kind of my main offerings that I'm trying to refine and stress test and work with. I'm working with young sellers. I'm working with frontline managers and senior executives to try to help, close this gap and help people really have a better experience buying and selling.
That's awesome. I love it all. And I think, with everything that I've heard today, if I just kind of like distill it down to the, build trust, earn trust, keep adding value, work in, out versus out in. And this is not treating people like numbers. It's treating people like you would want to be treated, and go figure, people want to help you when that happens.
Dude, in you building Feather, so Feather can make all that happen and make that happen faster and help it make it faster, more measurably and more routinely, man. What a noble mission you're on. So I'm here to watch you and support you and watch this thing be successful for you.
Thank you so much. I definitely I want to encourage everyone to reach out to Jon. If you want to check out what we're working on and the intersection of technology and human authenticity and how that fits into this whole thing, check us out at feather.vip, www.feather.vip. My name's Jeremy. This has been Birds of a Feather. Thanks you so much for sticking with us, and we'll catch you next time.